The views expressed in this presentation are expressly those of the presenter and do not reflect the official policy or position of the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, the United States Air Force, Department of Defense, or United States government.
Welcome to the Keys to Military Success. This is the show that you've been waiting for. The show that exposes the emotional, physical, intellectual, spiritual, and social dimensions of a successful military career by none other than the experts on the battlefield, Team R.E.D Alert, led by Christian Sledge. Trust me, folks, I've had the privilege of consulting with them, and let me tell you, the results speak volumes. I'm talking about beast mode activated. And the team's not here just to talk the talk, they're here to walk you through it all. We're going to be talking about strategic consultations, operational insights, and decision-making gems. The team will be consulting with strategic and operational leaders and decision makers, extracting tactics, techniques, and procedures, unlocking your true potential. That's how they roll, and that's just how they get down. So without further ado, let's turn up the volume and get ready to rumble. It's time to hear from my mentor and the team, the Keys to Military Success, Christian Sledge, and the R.E.D Alert. Class is in session. Let's go.
Go we shall. Thank you, Felicia Rickerford and Tanya Madrano for the opening. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Keys of Military Success. I am your host, Captain Christian, the hype man Sledge, and this is also co-hosted by the Corps cadets who are formerly known as the R.E.D Alert team. Our home, Air Force ROTC, Detachment 4, University of Nevada, Las Vegas, the Rebel Nation. Our show is for the soldiers, sailors, Marines, airmen, guardians, civilians, contractors, past, present, and future, who seek guidance, mentorship, and leadership and advice from the leaders themselves. We provide information for those before, during, and after their careers in the armed forces. The time has come for you to stop watching others be successful in the military and start living your own military successful life. This is chapter 1 of my unknown wars that define today's Airman saga. Today, we have a very special guest for the entire United States Air Force Department of Defense. I say that because normally I interview people who are high ranking. They got positions and power. It's all inherent. It's associated to their duties performed. However, my goal is to demonstrate to you today that you do not have to be in a leadership position in order to be an everyday leader. In addition, I want you to understand that the people who have mastered everyday leadership have a unique understanding of the world. They are truly grateful for the opportunity to be able to even face the challenges that they have. It's my honor and privilege to introduce to you from Nellis Air Force Base 99th Medical Group, none other than the one and only Alyssa Esparza. When I first met her, I was with a couple of my cadets at the 99th Air Base Wing staff meeting, and she was being recognized by the wing commander and the command chief. Her supervisor nominated her, as he should have, and she was able to stand in front of the entire wing and demonstrate a small example of why she was selected for her recognition. Her appreciation for simply being alive and well despite her trials and tribulations was a source of inspiration for all in the room. My cadets and I were so impressed that we invited her on campus to talk to the cadet wing at the detachment, particularly about what airmen should expect from their future leaders. Again, she crushed her objective, and I decided to present her with another challenge as one of my co-hosts for the People Show. So she is part of that as we speak right now. What people do not know is that she is an officer and a chief just sitting in with A1C stripes on her shoulders. I would personally withheld that on purpose because we need to see the person before any kind of rank or position. She is one who has an advanced perspective of everyday leadership. She clearly gets that from her trials and tribulations that have challenged her life. What she brings to the table is extreme gratefulness. That's something that we all can learn from. So as usual, I always come with the facts. Let's get the facts straight. Like my mother's maiden name, that's Sledge, by the way. She's a medical technician at the 99th MDG at Nellis Air Force Base, as I said before. This is her first permanent duty assignment, and she's an expert technician who cares for our war fighters, past and present. From minor procedures to major medical events, she is ready to respond and save lives every single day. She hails from Los Angeles, California, and attended college for a while before deciding to jump into the United States Air Force, where she is continuously recognized for her outstanding work and everyday leadership. So without further ado, it is my honor and pleasure to introduce my co-host and military success key holder, the first class airman, pun intended, Alyssa Esparza. Hey, how are you doing out there, my co-host?
Actually, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh my gosh, Like, I don't think I've ever gotten a better introduction than that ever in my life. Like, if I'm ever on a game show, I need you to do that again.
Hey, not a problem. So, hey, I don't mind doing that at all. You literally did the thing. I literally just put the words together. These folks need to recognize game when they see it. So, you literally gave me all the ammunition. So you did the thing. You beat the challenges. You hit the milestones. I simply put it on paper. All right. These folks got to understand and recognize and know who you are. So, I hope that
That's
fit
so
the bill.
celebrating.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's I don't pick, floppy co-hosts. All right, cool. So without further ado, let's get this thing started, shall we? So, we kind of talked about your bio a little bit, and all your accomplishments. It's a lot, right? As I do all my hosts, I say, hey, look, I do my thing, but what did I miss? Given your bio, what would you say the most important things that you would want the people to know about you?
It's kind of a hard thing because I feel like everyone at some point wants to be liked. It's pretty hard to walk into a room and be like, I don't care what you think. I strive for that. But I guess immediately when I meet someone, I'm always very conscious of how I present myself and how I make them feel. Most of all, my word choice, I'm always told me like, yeah, as a kid, just be nice. Don't bully anyone. If someone can't fix something about themselves in 10 seconds, don't comment on it. So I'm very conscious of like how people make me feel and how I make people feel. I guess if I wanted someone to put into words, I just want to lead with, kindness and happiness, leave all that negativity just at the door and then make sure that person, if I'm engaged in conversation, I genuinely like people at work, especially with my patients, when people come into the hospital, they're never having the best day of their life.
Right.
They're probably,
right.
I'm always seeing people when they're at their worst, physically, mentally, just not up to par. So it's very important that I set the tone of, comfort and just safety most of all, because it's very easy to lose yourself in like, this is just a job for me, but for someone, this is a odd chapter, an oddity in their life. So me coming in, I'm like, how a kid would look at a teacher. They have all the answers, but I might not. But it's very important for me to put up that front and keep that safety button of my patients so that at least they have a calm sense of mind. So if I really hope that's something I'm able to do, bring someone just comfort. And I try to lead with that by asking them follow-up questions. Very easy to be, oh, how's your day? And they say, well, I walked my dog like 2 days ago and that was fun. I'm like, oh, what kind of dog do you have? When'd you get the dog? Just something like that, just to show that you care. Very little. But that's what I try to do at least.
Okay. So embedded in all that is the desire, from what I'm getting at, is desire to show care towards others. And that's kind of what built you to who you are today. Is that correct? Is that a safe assumption for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I would rather be remembered and be known as someone who's very kind, caring. And you can kind of leave like all the titles and labels at home. I don't really, if someone knows, oh, she went to college, oh, she's in the Air Force versus, oh, that's Alyssa. She's very kind. I've always said good things about her. That makes me feel a lot more fulfilled than someone knowing my credentials, if that makes sense.
Oh, okay. So I literally could have just saved all that time and said, here's this really, really nice person who cares about you. And
that's why I'm here.
Yeah. I could have just did that.
Credentials are cool too.
Oh, okay. So do that. And then, okay, so we just did a hybrid thing. So now folks have a more of a 360 picture. I got you. Yeah. So I was like, oh, okay. So I do feel important.
Absolutely.
But this isn't about me.
Thinking about that.
Okay. Got it. This isn't about me. This is all about you. Okay. So now I'm cool with that. So, but let's stay on that track, because I think you're already on fire. You're already on where I want to go. So my next question for you: what were some of the home values that you had that helped define you as a person? Like you say, hey, I have all these things that define me. What were the driving factors that you experienced in your life that kind of helped you say, hey, this is the person that I want to be?
It's my parents are very like, they had me when they were in their early 20s. So I feel like I was always with like older siblings, where you learn by example.
Mm-hmm.
You're learning what to do, what not to do. It was never like, here's what you gotta do what I say, not as I do.
Mm-hmm.
It was very much how my dad interacts with someone. He is very, he tells dad jokes to everyone. He's very the life of the party when he walks in, all that, like, oh my God, everyone just puts a smile onto their face.
Mm-hmm.
I admire that so much. And along with my mom, she has this ability to make anyone feel like the smartest, dumbest person at the same time, especially if you come to her with your problems.
Mm-hmm.
She'll be like, oh my God, I was surprised you went through all that. But how is it that you missed this? And she'll comfort, gentle parent you into the
Mm-hmm.
right direction. So in a combination with all that, I really try to emulate that. But there's one thing she did blatantly say, especially, I apply it to almost everything in my life. Just
Mm-hmm.
if someone isn't hurting other people or themselves, whatever they're doing is probably okay. Like, it's none of my business. So I lead with that a lot. It's just, if someone's not causing trouble, why would I care what they're doing? Just, those are some of the off the top values that my upbringing kind of brought me. But it's mostly, they talk to me from a very young age, like an adult. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
this is why this is this. And it was never, you're a kid, listen, because I said so, and you're an adult, or
Right.
I'm an adult, do what I tell you. It's
Right.
very much, hey, this is the reasoning. If you climb on this tree and you fall, you will hurt yourself, not, hey, get off that tree.
Gotcha.
So I appreciate that a lot, because now that type of mentality going into like a sticky situation, it always kind of adds that extra layer of protection. Like, I can understand why something happens very easily, and I can put my own feelings aside. Especially
Gotcha.
with my line of work, it kind of comes in really handy, especially if someone's like freaking out, or their parents intubated, or they're not feeling well, or just they feel like, oh, the nurse is not doing something. You're able to de-escalate all that very easily. I feel like that helps a lot.
Okay. So I want to kind of hang on something you had mentioned, that, how your parents raised you up. They kind of gave you the logic and the reason of why to do or not to do something. And I think that is important, because if you think of my generation was just as you described. Don't do it because I told you not to do it, or do it because I told you to, right? Or else, right? And that was enough for me, right? That was enough for me. I knew what was on the other side of that shotgun, and I did not want to be on the wrong side of it, right? So I had a healthy fear of what was on the other side of that. So that was enough for me. But I think this new generation of airmen and this new generation of just leaders, like young leaders in general, have your mentality where, yes, if you tell me to do it, I'll do it, if it makes sense, but where's the logic in it? Why am I doing this? Right? Especially when I know in the back of my mind, we could probably do it better if we did it this way. Right? You are that generation.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would say, that is very, very important, that me and you being, this many years apart, like in the same room, we can argue that we've had different upbringings and logic, but I understand why you get yours. Like, I understand because my cadets are the same age as you, and they have the same mentality. So yeah, I think that's really cool that you highlighted that, because our older leaders need to understand that, like, that's the new wave of that's coming through. They're not trying to be argumentative. They just used to getting the logic of why they should or should not do something, right? Because we have time to explain it. But
I feel like that's a lot of where the miscommunication comes in with higher ups. They're used to do what I tell you, and someone does it. There's no question or pushback, and it's almost impossible to come at someone and ask why without sounding like you're trying to be argumentative, or you don't really understand why they're telling you to. It's never, at least in my experience, it's never been because I don't want to do what they're telling me. I just want to have a reasoning behind that, because it helps me do a better job. It makes me feel more included. It provides background to a situation. I'm going TDY pretty soon, and if someone were to tell me, hey, you're going to this place, but not give me a reasoning, it's kind of like, okay, well, how do I prepare? What do I do? You lead more questions versus coming at someone with an explanation already at hand. I feel like it's better. But I can also see, just how you said, that old school mentality of, hey, do it because I told you. And because you have that trust in me that I'm more experienced and I know why. It's a good reason why I'm telling you. So I kind of go back and forth. I respect that mentality of, I do trust you. Why would I question you? Why you're telling me to do something? Why would I question your authority, your say so? You obviously got to where you are for a reason. So I go back and forth on how I feel with what mindset, what hat to put on.
Yeah. So a lot of people argue, hey, you're in the military, you take orders without, question. And that's, we're slowly getting to that point where like, that's not it. You have to lead with purpose. Like, why are we doing this? And it helps with the buy-in. So I think you understand that a lot. I think your parents were natural born leaders, even though they were young. If they sat there and we were able to explain to you, hey, don't climb up that tree, because if this happens, look. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I think that's really cool to kind of prep you for, the new generation versus my generation, which is different. I think those traits will really help you as a leader. You'll have no problem explaining why things are the way they are. But on the other half of that, right, understand that if you need something done immediately and you don't have the bandwidth, you might have to. That's the other side of that coin.
That's very true, because sometimes you don't have that time to sit there and give a 10-minute explanation of why you need something done. And that's where I think the pushback from our older chain of command is kind of, well, if I'm sitting here telling you X, Y, and Z, you're not actually doing any work. Nothing's getting done.
Right.
So it comes a time where that is useful. And maybe, giving that explanation when something that's less urgent will provide that trust when something needs to become expedited.
And that's very advanced of you, because there's a time and place for all that stuff, right? And if you do it when you explain it when the things are not urgent, when they are urgent, they have a tendency to click, man, she would not have asked me to do this if she didn't have a purpose. I'm gonna go ahead and lead with good faith that she, that she means it, right? She normally would explain it, but this looks like it's urgent, so let me just go ahead and do it. And if I have questions, I'll go back and ask her, right? Like, what was that about? Like, is everything okay? And I'm sure at that point in time, the emergency has dispelled and you have time to explain it. If it's something that they're supposed to know. So I think that's very cool of you to realize. And I think that will help with your leadership style. It's just knowing when to use certain things. If you're constantly always in urgent mode, then nothing becomes urgent, right? Versus, I know the difference between urgent and non-urgent. So that's cool.
Yeah. Kind of equated to, what's that question? Would you rather be feared than loved?
Exactly. So I'd rather be Christian any day than Captain Slugs. Like and the cadets know that. Like, I hate being that person. It's usually because I need to use it and like I need to get something done, or somebody's messing with my people. So it's usually very rare when I have to be that person. So I get it. You're on that note too. Okay, cool. So if you don't mind, I'm about to totally go philosophical on people.
All right.
I want to dig deep into where your mindset is and give people just an example of how deep you go. Okay.
All right.
So I have a quote from Mark Twain here. And Mark Twain says, "I'm an old man and I have known a great many troubles, but most of them never happened." So given that quote, what does that mean to you, given your unique pre-United States Air Force experience? Because I know you've been through some things, but given that information, what does that quote mean to you?
The part where he says that they never happened, that in my head fires off being prepared, which is something that the Air Force heavily advocates for, the readiness portion of it. Just preparing for moments that never happen. Stay ready, you don't have to get ready.
Yep.
And a big reason why I joined the Air Force was to have that foundation, have that fallback, have that steady, solid, backing to my life. If I prepare for the hard moments in my life early, before they're happening, in my early 20s, my late teens, my life gets easier. At least that's the logic I led with. If you are constantly making sure you have your own back, education is something that no one can take away from you. That will always provide you with avenues and open doors. So that's something that's very important to me, and the Air Force gives me that. But before the Air Force, I kind of always, make sure I was thinking 2 steps ahead, not just one. And when COVID happened, that was kind of a very curveball, because that's the year I graduated. Mm-hmm. So I was exploring different avenues, okay, I can go to college, but here's this option B that I never considered. That threw everyone for a loop. And all of a sudden, college wasn't the only avenue after high school. So for me, it's kind of been a motto to my life without me ever hearing that quote before, of just stay ready. And when you think you're ready enough, recheck it, get ready again. Because when that time does come, it almost takes the stress away from a immediate change, because you've already played the scenario out in your head. You have a plan of attack. It's just a matter of execution.
Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned that the United States Air Force kind of gave you a definite framework of how you kind of exist right now. I would argue that, yes, that's true, but I would argue that you probably had some experiences that prepared you for the United States before you walked into it. So that kind of said, you know what, the reason why I'm going to the Air Force is because I've had this experience, right? And to defeat this experience, to mitigate and crush this experience that I'm having, right? This is an answer, which, when you got to the Air Force and you went through milestones and through the Air Force, you were like, I been through worse, right? Like I've had it worse, right? This is not bad, right? This is like y'all crying over here, and I'm like,
yeah,
this is great. Dinner's still at 7, right? Like I'm good to go. So what that means, at least to me, is a lot of things happened in your life, Esparza, but a lot of things did not happen, just based on some things that you had mentioned to me, and we'll get into those later. It's just like, that was tough. That was rough. Right. But guess what didn't happen? Right. You know what I mean? Like, guess what could have happened while you were going through your ordeals, but it did not happen. Right. Because you were already prepped. You were already, all the things that you were you saying the Air Force was getting you sharp on. That's what it was doing, is getting you sharp on it. But you already had it over here. Right. Your mom and dad spun you up. The environment, LA, all that brought you up. Right. To the point where you were like, okay, cool. I'm in the big blue now. I have a certain framework. I'm not from nothing. Right. I come from something.
It gives you a different set of tools coming into a situation. When you go into BMT, you're thrown together with 49 other girls who are different ages, different experiences, different upbringings, different states, different everything. You're the only thing you have in common is the want to be here.
Yep.
And it's very hard to bond over that with the external, stressors that's going on in BMT. It 95% of the time we didn't get along, but I feel like having those people skills is very important. Before I joined the Air Force, I never had a problem talking in public. I got into too much trouble for talking. Over talking. Yeah. I got in trouble in BMT for talking too much when I was paying attention. I mean, there's a running thing. I talk probably too much, but I was a waitress before I joined. I was a lifeguard. I was helping in school. That kind of kicks the social anxiety out of you, especially. Mm-hmm. But I'm super grateful, because my ability to communicate with different people in different walks of life really helps in a lot of avenues, especially in the Air Force, because you're thrown together with different teams every day, it feels like, and you have the same questions. Why are you here? What's your job? Where you come from? But when you're immediately able to build somewhat of a trust just based off, I don't want to say vibe, but like how you present yourself, mm-hmm. it almost skips over the niceties and formalities, because you're able to work quicker. You're able to work with the quickness. That's super important.
Yeah. I think when I was going through BMT back in 2004, which is crazy. I remember like it was yesterday though, but it was through those stressful times that we were finally able to bond and unite. Okay, your purpose is to graduate, cool, and become, the next generation of airmen. That's cool. What does that really mean? My TIs were able to give us that definition through hard work, stress management, pressure, all that stuff, and teamwork, all that stuff like that. Man, it was built for you to fail individually. There's no way you can get it all done. So I get it. Yeah. So
I feel like BMT has a way of pinpointing each and everyone's weakness, if that makes sense. It comes out in one nature or another. For me, I've always had a problem with failure, and you can't go into BMT without failing at something. But I hate my failures being showcased. And I don't know, I feel like they can smell it. I don't know what it is. They got like this sixth sense. My drill, they put me as guidon bear. And I'm 5'2" on a good day. And I'm walking in front of a 6'4" guy. And I'm leading the flight, quote unquote. And my drill was cool in the back of the flight.
Right.
I don't know how cute I look up front.
Right.
I was fine doing I was fine in the back.
Right.
But to put me in the front, you are the face of the flight. And oh my God, every day I still wake up hearing, come on, guidon bear, get it together, guidon bear. And I'm like,
rough, huh?
It just every day that was the worst part of my day, messing up.
Yeah.
And I didn't know I had that problem before, but going into BMT, it's like, hey, everyone knows you're messing up because yes, there's like 40 other people behind you, but you are the one holding a flag saying, look at me.
This big old target on your back.
When everyone's going right.
Yeah. That's rough.
Oh my God.
It's obvious. It's painfully obvious.
It's like, hey, get the flag back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's a cool thing about how military training regiments, they teach you, at least here, United States here in the Department of Defense, they teach you to fail.
Yep.
It is one of the things, you are going to fail tremendously, and we are going to poke at that failure until it stops being so tender and you accept it, right? You get better at it each time you do it, right? You don't mess up the same every time. However, you get used to the feeling of failure. Eventually, Alyssa, it will get to the point where you're like, failure is a part of my regiment. I know how this thing feels. This is new to me. I'm probably going to fail, but I know this is a part of it. So you shift into overdrive and say, well, let's just go, right? Let's just go get it, right? I know I might mess this up, guys. This is the first time I've ever done but I'm not nervous about failure, right? Because I already told you, right? So
yeah, that's a big part. I got to get rid of that stigma. I'm still working on it. I'm getting better, but it's still there. And that sting that happens.
Yeah.
After, self-reflection, you got to sit there and be, okay, why does this paralyze me more than it does other people? And it's just my stigma with failure be equaling weakness.
Yeah.
I hate feeling weak. I hate physically, mentally, just that's my biggest hurdle to come over. And I had to stop looking at failure as, an end point, more as a pivot, if that makes sense.
It does. So we do that in ROTC a lot. We give, what we call GLPs, which are pretty much scenarios and things like that. And you have to get used to making decisions. The decisions you have, or that you make have impacts on others and things like that. And you will mess it up from time to time. That's okay, right? You just have to understand where you messed up, why you messed up, what were you thinking? What were the values that you had incorporated when you thought about this process? And then did you think about this or this or this? Okay, so when you do it again, you're better off at it. You'll do better, right? But understand it's a part of the process. Once you accept it and absorb it and kick it out as a weakness and just say, hey, this is just a part of the process, then ta-da! You just jump off the ledge every time. You're like, dude, I've been here before. Bye. You will get there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's how you know. You're just like, dude, I don't know, but I'm gonna go, right? I gotta go. Yeah, so I can't just sit there looking at the legs. I gotta jump off of it. I got my parachute works, right? It works. It works just fine. Somebody's gonna catch me, right? It's fine, especially in these training environments. It's fine. So cool. I think that was pretty cool. Hey, so before we talk about everyday leadership, because I really want to highlight you as an everyday leader. A lot of people don't even know what that is, but before we get into that, I want to touch on the factors that make you who you are. At first glance, people see your stripes, they see your youth, they think you're typical, mediocre, A1C, don't got much going on, fresh out of mom's house, typical, right? Nothing special. Yeah. But after hearing your particular story, I know for a fact that that's not true, that a youngster such as yourself couldn't have gone through, much yet, right? That's what people think. Do you have a chapter in your life that you're willing to share that would dispel that perception forever?
Yeah, I definitely have. It's kind of like pick your card. Which one from the deck do you want?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I feel like what bonds everyone, especially in the military, is just trauma bonding. If you show the wound and you expose it so that you talk about it so that others can treat it. If you grow, my mom has a saying where, like, if everyone threw their problems into a pile and you saw others, you take yours back. And it's
pretty deep.
She just throws little isms like that, and they stick because
it makes
they're
sense.
So true.
It makes sense.
You can hear everyone else's problems. You have this perception of them built up, no matter how hard you try. But for me, a running theme is like very much what you said. They don't really think much because they're like, what have you gone through?
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned that I graduated during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
I graduated high school during COVID. It was like a random day in March 2020. They were like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna be off of school for till next Monday, but study for your test." I'm still waiting to take that test. So,
all right, right, math.
During that time, my parents, our house, we sold it, but because of the market and how everything was, we weren't able to get a house immediately. So I got into college. I did some college. It was all online, and it was new doing school remotely, completely online. And during that time, we were in between houses. So, my parents had 2 cars. I would use one car to go to Starbucks, set up my laptop. I was doing my full 12 credits for the semester. And then I got a job when they started opening up, small businesses and stuff. I was waitressing. And then when they started opening up water parks, the following year, we didn't have a house. So I worked at a testing for COVID, like for the community. I was a waitress and I was a lifeguard. With those 3 jobs, I was able to, help my parents out with paying for a motel, maybe for a week. And also I was doing my college work on my breaks I worked at a Chinese restaurant, and they didn't speak a lick of English in the back. And the customers that would come in spoke Spanish, and I speak Spanish, but not really. Like I can understand it, can't really speak it. So it was very fun. Very fun. I was like, man, just plant the photos at the center. Just plant the photos on the wall.
Wow.
And I promise you. So
we'll get there. We'll get to where you're going.
So they would, but they were so incredibly sweet. God, I love them. I still talk to them, and I talk to their daughter still, but they would give me extra food to take home so that after my parents were off of work.
That's cool.
There's points where everyone slept in the car.
Little victories.
Yeah. I'm like, hey, I got orange chicken, I got compound chicken, I got Mongolian beef. Like, what do you want? Because I would I would come back to our hotel room just smelling like chow mein and so sauce. And you know what? I had the best time of my life. It was because of everyone, other than like falling asleep, either in the parking lots of like the motels we used to sleep in, or actually in the motels if I made enough money on tips. It kind of my mom would go to work, my dad would go to work. I'm a favorite. But with that, you can't have 3 jobs and go full time in college, even if it is remote. There's times where I would have my Zoom meeting, like with my earphones, and I'm taking orders.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
And you know what? I passed my classes.
Yeah.
But I realized that wasn't sustainable. COVID was this long stretch of time. And when my parents eventually did get their house about a year and a half later, they put me on, they kind of took my funding basically away, because I was like, hey, I can't do 12 credits at this time. I have to make sure I have enough money to sleep. But I registered as a full-time student, yada, yada, yada. They wouldn't pay for me as a part-time. So I ended up accumulating some debt. And I was like, I can't have debt.
Right.
I can't keep going, even though I want to. So I revisited this old idea of when I was in high school, what what about the military? Talk to Navy, to the Air Force. My mom's not the biggest advocate for military. She was like, hey, keep going to school. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. And I'm like, yes, I'm trying to figure it out because I don't want to burden you. Even though she always says it's not a burden. I don't want to put that responsibility on you. I want to be self-sufficient. And this is a way I found that I'm willing to try. You know, I laid it out on the table. Oh my God. Well, thank God for Staff Sergeant Gonzalez. I adore that man. He really sat there and he was like, you know, let it all out. And I'm like, you understand, I got this. He really put me in perspective.
Like, he's like a counselor. He went from recruiter to counselor, life counselor.
He's like, I just got off my lunch. Jesus Christ. He was like, look, this is the reality. This is what's probably going to happen. But these are the guarantees. Air Force gave me the guarantees that I needed. School, stability, being able to help my parents. That was all I cared about. Yeah. And it just so happens that I got my number one job. I got my number one stateside. It's been good all around. But I really have to believe that everything happens for a reason at this point because, you know, I feel like life gives you signs. And just when I was at my breaking point, like every time during that 2020 to 2021 block of time, I was like, I can't do this. Something come up. God, I can't do this anymore. I'm burnt out. I have nothing in me. Life's like, hey, yeah, you do. You got one more. You got one more. Yeah, you got one more. Yeah. It's like doing push-ups. It's like, nah, I can't do this. It's like, but what's one more? Yeah. And then what's one more again? Yeah. Yep. So I feel like, especially even when I tell people I grew up in Los Angeles, they're like, oh, like around Anaheim. And I'm like, no. Yeah, you know, beaches. And it's like, no, bruh. No. Like, I get it. My mom grew up in Compton. My dad grew up in a place called Hawaiian Gardens. You know, I still have those, what do you want to call it, mannerisms? I can tune into that, street mentality. Oh my God, I don't know how to say that. But I can go back home and have conversations with my friends back home and understand what they're going through from that perspective. And then I can come back to the Air Force and see, you know, people with different views, why they think that way. And I never hold it against people. I understand why my friends went a certain avenue. So, you know, product of the environment, but I didn't want to be that. I tried really hard not to be that. And I feel like I'm all right. I did all right. I'm doing okay.
I think you're doing perfectly fine.
I love bringing my friends to Vegas, especially now that I have an apartment that, let's just say, it's bigger than the car. You know what I mean? Right. And that happened in less than 2 years. You know? And I don't give myself a lot of credit, but when I moved in and, you know, my parents helped me like move stuff around, you know, those thoughts keep coming back of like, when I moved in, I had nothing. I had my clothes and like a pot. So we were sleeping on the floor, you know, with the bedding, and I got my bed the next day. But they were like, "Oh my God, do you remember when we moved out and like this and how we had to shower?" And I'm like, "Yeah, Mom, I remember.
Yeah, it's like last week. It's fine. I remember."
Literally, I'm like, actually, I want to forget, but you know,
right? You're not letting me.
You know, my mom's like, this is incredible. Like, you have a bigger place now than we did before COVID. And that's like, ooh, determination will get you places. But I never, when I tell people, it's like, oh my God, really? Like, even my closest friends, you know, they were going to school. Everyone was like scared to go out. We weren't talking much than just over the phone. So they didn't know what was happening. Yeah. Plus, it wasn't really their business. I had stuff to do. I was working 7 days a week. So it kind of just, it's not something that you mentioned, but once I sat down with my friends and I'm like, hey, yes. They're like, when are we going to be able to see your new house? And I'm like, well, ain't that the day?
Yeah, that's $1 million question.
Exactly.
Yeah. Trust me, let me know too.
Exactly. But yeah. It is what it is. I'm grateful for the experience because, man, I learned my endurance, what I'm able to go through, the fact that I really do have always just one more in me. And life really likes to test that theory. Yep. So when I got to BMT and they were like, oh my God, you got to sleep on comfortable places, food 3 times a day. It was genuinely like, you know what? Yeah. I'm cool. I'm so okay. You don't understand. I'm getting my full REM sleep right now.
Right.
So yeah, I mean,
that's really, really cool. Like, look, even as you were talking about some of the hardest points of your life, you can hear that there was some appreciation within it, right? Man,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Were the people that had been sent to you and your family during the times of crisis to get you guys
yeah,
across that bridge. It might have been an everyday victory. It might have just a small
yeah,
victory, small episode in your life, right? Or a
definitely.
small chapter, but it changed the whole trajectory of your life. So the whole time, like, I'm going through it, but I have a appreciation that I had these people in my life to help me bridge it across. Because without
Absolutely.
those people,
Oh
I
my
could
God.
not get there. That's the stuff that people don't know about you. They just see A1C and they just think, oh, typical A1C, whatever. You know, I was like, the rank holds a lot back from of who we really, really are and what we have been through. I was just right up the street. I'm San Diego, Southeast, right?
Yeah.
I'm right up the street from you. So I understand the things that you went, oh, you guys are from Imperial Beach? No, I don't know nothing about that, right? You know, right? I know about some other stuff that we will not talk about today. So,
Exactly.
right. You know what I mean? And I can talk that all day long, but that's not ideal, right? Let's not do that. But I love the fact that you were able to talk about the positive things that were happening in the midst of the negative. Because some people will come to you, oh yeah, this happened and this happened and this happened. It's just all negative. You just go down this slope and you're like, oh Lord,
Yeah.
have mercy. Right. But you were like, hey, COVID happened, but this happened. And then
Exactly.
I was living in my car, but this happened. Right. And then we had little victories that got us across. Like, that's where we bonded, those little victories.
Yeah.
I thought that was really, really cool. So my question to you is, with all those experiences, did it play a role? Does it currently play a role in your life as a member of the United States Air Force? Like, does it play into your leadership style? Does it cut or influence the way you lead every day?
100%. I think it shaped it from the ground up. I wouldn't say I had like no life experience, because there's obviously more stuff I'm not going to talk about here. But that time pushed me so far out of my comfort zone. I didn't even remember what comfort was. It completely eradicated every sense of security I had and made me have to find solitude in myself. And what I mean by that is I had no privacy and alone time for a year and a half. I love my parents, but if you're with someone or people all day, I mean, I was taking orders. At a time where everyone was kind of social distancing, I feel like I talked to more people.
You were in the thick of it. You were in the thick of it more. Yeah.
I'm someone who really, my social battery is dead. I have to be charged for like 7 days. But, you know, it kind of, I don't want to say it taught me how to put up a front, but it thickened my skin in a way that I built people skills. And what I mean by that is, when I was a lifeguard, I had to, little kids, I would help them down the slide and they're like, I'm scared. And I'm like, okay, I'll go down with you if you want, but I'm like working on 2 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
But I'm still going to be that comforting person for that little kid. Like, I remember, and I don't know if you're like a wave pool, like those giant.
Yeah.
I helped the one time I actually felt like I was a lifeguard. I actually got to jump in and save these 3 little girls I was holding onto a raft. And one of them let go and I lost sight of her. And it was kind of close to 4th of July. And I was just terrified. I hate working the wave pool, because there's always something going on. There's always a kid without a life vest. And that time I had 3. And I'm strong, but I'm not 3 7-year-olds who can't swim by themselves strong.
In a wave pool strong.
In a wave pool, and no one wants to help. Everyone's
just looking at you.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, yeah, for sure, I got this. But to be that comforting person is like, hey, it's okay, I got your friend, I got this, hold on to this, and keep that. When you have schoolwork, you got all these external factors. But when I got to the Air Force, it was like that was my the trial run. And then I got here and I got my job in healthcare, and it's like so much less stressful for some reason than those jobs. Dealing with people when they're like blatantly cussing you out, or people who just are rude. But I mean, granted, I can't really fault you for that at all, but I'm still going to give you that level of care because I understand. And a lot of my de-escalation comes from being cussed out over the phone because I didn't give someone their sweet and sour sauce or their
terrible what they doing to you. Terrible what they do to you.
They're like, hey, I ordered this and I know you charged me. And I'm like, well, ma'am, I can write your name down here. And the next time you come in, if you don't want to come in, blah, 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 blah. Just that those mannerisms come in so handy. And my level of drive, my appreciation for being bored, that's like the biggest impact because I always needed something to do. Like if I have a day off, I'm cleaning, but now I can really say, hey, you've done a lot. Let's take a chill. Let's relax. Cleaning is not relaxing. That's still a chore. But I feel like that 1.5-year time period was my boot camp. That life was really like gave me just a cold dunk into what my life is going to be like. To the point where Air Force is, for me at least, child's play. I've been paying rent. I've been making phone calls. I've been talking to people. I don't want to jinx it, but there's really nothing life can throw at me at this point that I won't already have a backing to. And as much as I hated in the middle of it, as much as I was, stressing, I'm fine now. And I knew I didn't think I'd get here, but I couldn't even imagine this would be my reality in 2024.
Yeah.
At all.
That's pretty dope. And I would argue that the experiences, you just proved my point earlier in the interview about connecting those dots. And I would argue that, the Air Force gives you a framework, but you had a framework walking into it, and you just proved my point. I knew it.
Yeah.
So
it tests us. Those values, your upbringing. It tests every portion of your being.
Yeah.
And
I think you did a well to prove my point that you are not mediocre and you are not a typical person. But at the same time, neither is the next A1C next to you, probably, right? They probably have a story too, and how they got here, right? So, and as do I have a story as well. So I just wanted you to just be able to dig down in there because, again, there's a lot of things that could have prevented you from having this moment and you being here right now. A lot of things happened in your life, but a lot of things did not happen. Right.
Yeah.
And it worked in your favor. Right. As in, I'm here because that didn't happen or that didn't happen or that didn't happen. Like, I am still here. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Right. But at the same time, I feel like you're grateful and thankful for the challenges presented before you so that you can hit this point right here, which is pretty
absolutely
damn cool. Right. So people will think twice when they look at the next A1C that, kind of has your, that kind of has your carry, which is really, really cool. Yeah, well, I would hope so. Hopefully we taught some. Okay. So everyday leadership, right? I have my concept of it, but I want to ask you, what is your particular definition of everyday leadership? What do you think when somebody says everyday leadership?
For a question like that, I have to kind of place in a different perspective. Like what if I was in a position of power, how would I lead? What's important to me in leadership in general? Just because to define leadership, it kind of just, I don't know, someone telling me what to do.
Yeah. That's what most people think of leadership is, but this is just everyday leadership. So let me help you with some of the background here.
Yeah.
Everyday leadership is just the little things that everybody does. It's not being the commander, right?
Gotcha.
It's not that, right? We got people for that. Right. But it's the little things, the everyday things that people do to show pulses of leadership that connect the bridges, that make things happen, that nobody really talks about. Right. But it's everyday leadership. So what are some things that you see every day or that you demonstrate every day to display your everyday leadership? What does that look like to you?
I guess helping others. That's a big thing for me because Air Force stuff, I feel like I'm still learning more and more every day. There's more abbreviations, more acronyms that they come up with. And I'm just like, I have no idea. So, you turn to my supervisor, flight commander, but I can even turn to the other techs that I work with, the other airmen. And I'm like, hey, have you gone through that before? And we'll walk each other through it because we're both in the same boat. Mm-hmm. And I really try to make sure that, you know, the people that came to Nellis after me, like if I have a tech who's my friend who doesn't have a car yet. So every time I'm on shift with them, I'm like, hey, I could drive you back to base because we live on opposite side of the day. Just those extra, just, it doesn't hurt to be nice. It's free to be nice. It's free to be kind. And I love being the person that someone can turn to when they need it. It fills me with so much. I like that. And I don't mind it at all. And I know people say, you know, call me whenever, but genuinely, I want to make sure that my friends and my coworkers understand that I'll be there. Like if you want me to just do something simple, like feed your dog when you're out of town, I don't mind that at all. And I do it because it makes me feel good about myself. And I feel like when I see leadership do extra, like my actual leadership, you know, if I tell them, oh, I went out of town because my grandma was sick, I'm like, oh, how's your grandma? Do you need me? I can send you like a care package. I can watch your house and make sure that, like, those extras that I try to implement. If I see other people do that, I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. Because not a lot of people do. It's easy to be nice, but not a lot of people take that extra step. So for everyday leadership, I think that being that person, being that comfort that you can ask family, you can ask friends, but if you have just that little community extra, it helps a lot. It helps me. And it helps me before military when, you know, I worked at that restaurant and they would send me home with extra food, or they'd give me extra hours, or they'd, you know, be like, hey, you could park on the side, like it's fine. Or they let me use their internet.
Right.
You know, I really relied on the kindness of strangers a lot. And I just want to repay that. Maybe not directly to them because, you know, I can't. Maybe it's too late. But if I can just repay that kindness back to the general public, the universe, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
It makes me feel good.
Yeah. And that's what I was trying to get at. Like it's the everyday things that change the trajectory of someone's life that they don't even know that they're really having that impact. That's what everyday leadership is. And I'm trying to teach my cadets that it's the little things. It's not the big things. Hey, this person's the chief of staff of this, and this person's the commander of that. Like we already got that, right? We know that there's some power inherent in that. But what about that person where you were able to go walk into that office and spill your whole story and say, look, this is my whole story. I don't know what to do, right? And he's like, cool, I got it, right? I understand. Like, I'm going to switch hats real quick and let me get you on your way and connect these dots, right? Absolutely. And now your mom is like, oh my God, bro, this is dope. Like, you know what I mean? Like all that unfolded, you're able to, you know, throw a little bit of money to your mom and your dad to say, hey, look, it's a little bit, and even out of my little A1C pay, right? But I can at least provide it if you need it, right?
Yeah.
I can make that bridge happen. I can invite you to my place if you need a place to go. Like I can connect all these dots now because for one chapter in one page in one episode, somebody completely changed your trajectory for life, right? Yeah. And you will never forget that moment. Trust me, you'll go back 20 years and he'll probably remember your name. He'll probably remember your face, but he will not fathom all the wonderful things you were able to do because he opened that door, or that, you know, that NCO opened that door. So man, that's deep. If you strive to be an everyday leader, wait till you get that feeling. Wait till you get that feeling. Somebody's going to come to you, Alyssa, one day and say, remember this time when you did this? It was this one time and I was going through this and you told me this one liner and that changed my life. It completely changed the trajectory of my life. And you'd be like, I don't even remember saying that. Like but that's how you know that's what everyday leadership looks like in its rawest and most pure form, where you were just being yourself and that completely changed somebody's trajectory. And now I'm married and now I have kids and I'm super successful because you said that you did that one thing, that one day, that 1 year, right? And it changed my life forever. Literally those things, I encourage you to be an everyday leader. And I know you already mentioned some examples like, hey, my coworker does not have a car. I took it upon myself to say, hey, I understand. I understand. Let me just bridge this. It takes 2 seconds for me to bridge this gap. Right. Exactly. Because somebody had demonstrated it to you, right? On so many different levels. So I think that's going to add to your leadership style when you get to that level. Whether it's NCO or commissioned officer, there are no like lockdowns on how many of those kind of officers we need. We need all our officers to be that way. We need all our NCOs to be that way. Our force would operate so much faster and more efficiently if everybody just connected those little dots and not worry about, I'm not in a commander position, so I'm not in a position to say these things. Like, it's dumb. Yeah. I think based on your experience, you were able to easily connect those dots, and that's easy for you. It's not so easy for everyone else because their experiences are different. So I really tip my hat off to you when it comes to just being an everyday leader and just connecting those dots. I just wanted people to see that, that's how those bridges connect.
Absolutely.
We're staying on top of the topic of everyday leadership because I really want to dig deep into this for everyone. I really want them to get this. Okay. So I know your NCOs and commissioned officers that, are in charge have the inherent power to get the mission done, but sometimes they overlook the little things that would define them as an everyday leader. We just talked about a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
I know that there's some times where like, hey, you just missed an opportunity right here. Did you not just see the signs? So my question to you is, in your experience, what were some of the everyday leadership chances of today's NCO and commissioned officers? And what do they tend to miss? What are some things that just, oh my God, did you just not see that? Like, what in your experience, if any, have you seen an opportunity where an NCO or a CGO or whatever could have like nailed something and they just completely missed it? Why do you think they got it wrong?
I feel like maybe I just notice it so much because it's so important to me, but the humanity aspect of the job, like I feel to no fault of their own, I'm pretty sure everyone's human. I probably would make the same mistake of, it's an everyday job. It's Monday through Friday for most leaderships. They leave earlier than our 12 hours, at least where I work. Mm-hmm. And they're in uniform. We're in scrubs. We're in the same floor, but it's so disconnected sometimes. Mm-hmm. Because they're so far in Air Force world, they forget that, just on the other side of that wall, you have nurses, you have techs who are in the nitty-gritty, quite literally, in these people's lives. And just something simple like, hey, make sure you get your time cards done, or make sure you get your training done, your upgrade training done. It could be something simple as that. But when the way they go about it can be a little empty, just in the way their approach to it it's a job for them. They miss out on the emotional part of it. This isn't better one. They can at times just be offhanded and be aloof. I wish that they would put on scrubs sometimes and work the floor with us a little bit more, so that for the next 12 hours, me and you can have a conversation that isn't Air Force related, so we can build that gap. Gotcha. That would be pretty cool, because sometimes, it took me about 6 months to learn who everyone's name was in that office, and that was just because
they still get your name wrong.
Yeah, didn't introduce themselves or these other aspects. But there are a lot more. On a highlight, there's a lot more of leadership that actually does remember your name, that actually does remember small aspects of your life, and those I'm geared more to go to if I had a question, versus the person that called me Espinoza. Right. I'm like, right. Is she in the room with us? So yeah. That's what's important to me in leadership. Just I feel like it's not that big of a deal to remember someone's name, or to be understanding that someone couldn't make a deadline. Especially if you're in that position of power to make someone's life easier, I'll never understand why someone would choose to make it harder. Right. And maybe there's some backing to it, like, Air Force is Air Force, rules are rules. You need to make it into the deadline. This is why I'm writing you up. Mm-hmm. But I feel like I've seen it before where rules are bent in some situations. And I feel like if a situation calls for it and you're in that position and it won't hurt anyone, why are you making it harder on this individual? You could have made it easier and built your relationship. I understand the reverse of where it's like holding someone accountable, but you can hold someone accountable and not punish them at the same time. Absolutely. At least in my opinion.
Absolutely. So that's how we train our folks. And I throw counseling scenarios, kind of like you'll do in Airman Leadership School when that time comes here in a couple of years. They'll teach you how to counsel. I teach my cadets how to counsel in class, and I'll give them a random scenario. And I say, hey, if they mess this scenario up, they say this, completely throw the whole counseling session off, right? Throw it off, because that was the wrong answer, and now we're in a rabbit hole, right? And now they have to counsel their way out, right? Mm-hmm. But the point is to connect to their people, right? The connectivity. Us we officers, as Captain Sutton, the recruiting officer, and my counterpart says, we are in the people business. Especially on the officer side of the house. We are supposed to be in the people business. We're supposed to ask you how to make your life better, with that everyday leadership in mind. So, and sometimes some people don't get the lesson. Some people don't understand it. Like, you missed it. You missed the mark. Like, this is why I commissioned, is to be with the people and ask them what they need. And that's why we say we're never at our limit with those kind of officers and leaders. Those are the people we need, and we always have vacancy for them. The people who we don't have vacancy for, the people who can't make decisions, and the people who don't care about other people. We don't have any vacancy for those people, right? I don't care how good of a pilot you are if you don't know how to treat that crew chief with some dignity, right?
Yeah,
and just care, right? Care about them. Like, you don't understand like how deep that goes when that crew chief remembers your name because of some everyday leadership thing that you did for them, right?
Yeah,
it's crazy. So I think that you nailed it on the head. You already told me what effect that has, and you already provided a suggestion or recommendation. Those were my follow-up questions, and you totally nailed them. I really hope that the right people hear this and say, man, how do we get on the floor? She's right? How do we get on the floor, right? And just spend some time with these people and just have a normal conversation. It doesn't have to be about Air Force. I don't want to talk about Air Force. I want to talk about, like you said, like you said before, Women's Day at the bookstore. Like that's what I want to talk about, right? And that creates a bridge, right? And it unlocks some doors so we can have some regular conversations. It doesn't have to be blue all the time. So I think that was really, really cool. Okay. So my last question for you before we go into the speed round, okay? If you were able to speak for all ranks between E1 and E4, what would be your overall message to our strategic leaders that would, given they have ears open and you are standing in front of them and you have a blanket statement to speak and it would be granted? What would you tell them?
It's a hard one. There's so many, and yet I want to pick the most important one.
Mm-hmm.
For most of my other airmen, when we talk about leadership, it's always like it's kind of like you're complaining about your parents. They don't let me do this, or they don't let me do that. I can't go out here. I can't go out there. Yep. I don't know how much pull I would have, but
I already told you. You got it. You got all their ears. They got to listen to you. This is a rule-free wish, like the fairy godparents. Like, this is a rule-free wish. Just, you could speak for all E1s through E4s. Like, what is the one thing that you would tell them and they would have to grant? Sometimes
big Air Force problems can take a step back from airmen's problems. Sometimes. I feel, leadership has a big part of their job is satisfying big Air Force's needs. And if they don't, they get reprimanded. And no one wants to be in trouble, especially at your job. Especially, you don't want to come to your job and feel like you're on a time crunch or someone's shining the spotlight on you. But where that trickle downs is mostly, in my experience, airmen having to do the groundwork. And it's tiring. It's especially if you don't have the best rapport with your leadership, if they're just telling you what to do, not why, if they're not really instructing you on how to do it, if you're staying late and it's kind of not being appreciated. We don't get paid overtime and you can't take leave because manning's not the greatest, but you go home and you have external, problems. But I feel like those can get overshadowed. Your personal life can take a step back. And I feel like that's not always the best, especially for people's mental health and just the health in general. It can lead to just in the workplace, you won't do your best job if your insides are not good. You're not gonna shine greatness at work. So
absolutely, yep.
Sometimes big Air Force can take a step back for airmen. That would be my one.
Okay, that's good. Solid, wonderful. Okay, so cool. They answered that with so much elegance and grace. Now it's time to get into down and dirty.
All right.
You got to do what everybody else has done. You got to go through the speed round questions. Hey, no, you know how this goes. No explanation needed. Within 3 seconds, I need the answer. You can skip one. Right. Okay, cool. 10 questions. All right. Cool. Ready?
Ready.
All right, cool. Question 1. What has been your favorite age so far?
Ooh, 17.
Cool. What is your go-to lazy dinner?
Chicken nuggets and mac and cheese.
Okay. What is your favorite thing to do in the summertime?
Ooh, stay at home. I know it's unpopular, but stay at home.
Okay. What is one of your nicknames?
My mom calls me Munchkin.
Okay. And the Air Force calls you Espinoza. So there you go.
It's exactly.
What is the stupidest dare you've ever agreed to?
I've taken someone's sticker from their car because I thought it was funny on a dare. Is that concert?
Okay.
A little sticker, a little decal.
Okay. What item is worth spending more money on?
Comfort. Anything comfort.
Okay. What is your hidden talent?
Convert my ABCs.
I'll be damned. What movie do you enjoy quoting the most?
Rush Hour.
Okay. What never fails to make you laugh?
Rush Hour.
All right. All right. And if you were to write a book, what would it be about?
It'd probably be like a conversation starter book. Like questions to ask, random questions. Probably like this. I'd write all these down and put it together in a book.
Okay. Icebreakers.
Yeah, icebreakers, exactly. And I'd sell it to like bars and restaurants.
Question number 1, what's your sign? All
exactly.
Right.
Stuff like
Cool.
that.
Okay, got it. All right, easy enough. Okay, so you made it. That was question number 2. See, cleared it. Very easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Hopefully people have a more of a 360 picture of who you are and what you bring to the table, regardless if it's this big blue or just on the side, just you living your everyday life. I hope everybody's able to kind of gravitate towards you and what you bring. Personally, as I wrap this thing up, I definitely saw that when I was with Galanga and Gorse. We saw that first thing when you stood up bravely in front of like the whole wing and kind of just talked about your life story and some of the stories that you haven't even mentioned yet that I remember. I'll never forget those stories that you told me, but I was like, that's the stuff that makes Airmen like great. You are truly, in my mind, a chief or a CGO in the making. You just haven't realized it yet. And you might get out and not do it at all. But what I want you to realize is you're an everyday leader. The kind of people that connects dots, that was because people connected dots for you. So I think your life's work, your life's calling is probably to connect those dots. And I'm one of those people who are more than honored to be able to be one of those dots that connect you. There's a reason why we were sitting in that stand. I have nothing to do with that. We just happened to be there that day. And we said, we need to connect her to us. So just be cognizant that the universe is working in your favor and things are happening. You just have to relax and let it do its thing. Something big is coming in your life for all the good things that you have done and the good things that you're going to do. You're blessed so that you can be a blessing to others. You had to go through the trials. You had to go through them. You got to look back and say, I'll be God, dog. You know what I mean? Like, it all connects. It all makes sense now. Like, I don't fear any of this. Exactly. So, I'm grateful that you were able to like join us as a co-host because we need your perspective. We need that gratefulness. And that's what you bring to the table. Like, it's not just, all the other things that you do. It's the gratefulness. Like, y'all need to be grateful that y'all here today. Right. And they need to hear that. And that's your most powerful characteristic. And that's what people need on the leadership side of things. So, I encourage you to continue to bring that along, and however long you need us, we are always going to be here to be able to walk you every step of the way. And big shout out to mom and dad. They obviously are the people who framed you up, and you give them a lot of love and you give them a lot of credit. And hold on. What do you want? Okay, that's fine. You can take it to grandma's house if you want.
Are you going?
I don't know. Ask mom. Okay, so anyway, like I was saying before, that's why I added. I don't even edit that out, like, because that's just they do that all the time.
And they'll give you love too. Trust me.
So with that being said, we really appreciate you. It is an honor to have you on the squad and to be able to give folks perspective. I'm literally going to have chiefs and all that stuff. And I think they would love to have you on and get education from you, not just be, she's just an airman. No, this is Alyssa Esparza. This is my first class airman, right? Not the other way around. All pun intended. That is literally how we are going to label you up. So, man, it's been an honor just being able to sit with you and chat with you and just let folks know who stands on business around here and what that looks like.
Likewise, Karen.
Yeah, for sure. So with that, we'll wrap things up. Hey, we encourage everybody out there, make good choices, talk to somebody else different. You might learn something new about them and about how this universe works. So with that being said, we are signing out. See you all later.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Keys to Military Success with Team Red Alert, advised by Christian Sledge. Christian Sledge is a prior enlisted officer of the United States Air Force with over 20 years of military experience. Team Red Alert was assembled by the members of the AFROTC Detachment 4 at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas in 2023. This team has answered the call for the need for military leadership, knowledge, and enlightenment, and is dedicated to providing you with the keys to military success. Remember, as you embark on your own journey to success, lead with a kind heart. Have respect, care for others, and the mission will take care of itself. With the keys to military success in hand, the possibilities are endless.